is not connecting. Let's try that again. George. Hi. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me now? I was talking earlier. Oh, good. You could hear me earlier. I have been trying to figure out my mics. Welcome, everyone. Let me know that you can hear me now. If you can hear me, let me know in the comments. And if you can see me too, that would be great to know. I can see all your comments from YouTube and Facebook. It looks like Facebook is working today. That's great. I'm not sure if I got Instagram to connect. I was putzing with that for a little bit. Oh, you can. Thank you, Christy. Loud and clear. Oh, good. I'm not sure. I'm double mic'd. I just got all the gadgets out to make sure we had all our bases covered. I'm not sure the one I'm wearing is working, but at least one of the mics is working. So welcome everyone. My name is Shara Frank and I am here to share some of my mosaic process with you today. If you're new to Mosaic Mondays, this is something I started last month on Instagram, and I'm just trying out some new software that lets me stream to all of my social media accounts at the same time. And last week we only got onto YouTube, but today it looks like Facebook is at least working. So Instagram will be the last one. Oh, you heard George earlier. Oh, good. He's calm now. He's on the couch. What do you need to do to hear? I think, Robin, if you can't hear me, you probably can't hear this, but it could be your mic on your computer or wherever you're listening from, because it sounds like everyone else can hear me okay. So welcome everyone. I'm here from my studio. I am right outside of Minneapolis, and it's very cold and snowy. Let's see, you can see outside. There's outside. I'm in my home studio, and I just sent my kids to school. They had a little bit of a late start today, so a little scrambled. But I pulled together a bit of a project. I shared a bit over the weekend a squirrel I started working on, but I'm not planning to work on that much today. I have this kind of way of thinking of mosaics. So I talk about our mosaic vegetables and our mosaic dessert. So when I'm throwing myself into mosaic vegetables and doing like real hard kind of concentration thinking work, I have a hard time doing that kind of work live or in front of others. It's kind of a project I need to really take my time with. And I set up a different project to work on today. Oh, thank you, Debbie. I see you mentioned I'm coming in loud and clear. That's great. Okay, so I set up a different project to work on today, and I'm thinking about going forward more with this Valentine's theme. So I'm going to switch over to my tabletop view. I have my camera set up with a little project, and I'll just do a little review of what I what I finished last week. So we'll go into that next. So let me know if you can see my tabletop view okay. Oh, it's a little low. My volume's a little low, Robin. Okay. I'm going to move my mic over. So we just finished this project last week, this little heart piece, and to go another step ahead with Valentine's Day and this heart theme, I'm going to start this other heart frame that I have. And I'm just setting up my mic because I don't think this little clip-on one is working today. So I'm just going to make sure that this is moved close enough. Oh, I just heard something connect. Let's see. Nope. Okay. Okay. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free. Oh, you have your volume all the way up. Okay. I'll sit closer to the mic. If you have questions along the way, I have Lindsay helping out in the comments on Facebook, so she can guide you with links or any more info if you're looking. So we are going to work on this Sacred Heart, Flaming Heart frame today. And this is the one I just finished up last week. So if you were along last week, we filled in the center, but the previous 2 weeks I was working on the border. So those recordings are over on Instagram, but the finishing, the last stage, is on YouTube. Okay, so let me know if this is your first time working or watching my process. If you're familiar with any of this, I see lots of my students and Mosaic members here, so welcome. It's so fun to see my tribe here. Okay, so we like to use epoxy clay. This is my go-to adhesive and my number one question about my process. This is the most popular question I get, is my adhesive and my tools. So I have a handy Freebie guide with a list. It's a beautiful ebook, actually. It's so pretty. I'm really proud of this little freebie. So if you want a freebie that has links to all the supplies that I'm going to use, there is a link in the description of the YouTube live, and then also I believe it's posted in the Facebook comments too. So if you download that guide, you'll have a really handy outline of all of my supplies and my tools and adhesives that I recommend, and then also links to my Amazon shop, and I have a little special Etsy list as well So welcome, Kelly. I see this is your first time watching. And Diane, you took a class a year ago. Was that at my studio in Minneapolis? And Kelly, oh yes, Kelly, I recognize your name. Diane, your first time watching, welcome. Lisa, welcome. So good to have you all here. I'm so glad it worked out for Facebook today. I was really hoping that would that would work out. Okay, so here is my part A and my part B of epoxy clay. So this epoxy clay allows me to work very detailed and efficiently. So we have the part A and the part B. And the part B is the hardener, and you just need equal parts of each. So it comes in a brown and a white, and I prefer to use the white because then I can add my colorants to it. And I used to use Epoxy Sculpt for many, many years, but the last few years I've been working with epoxy clay. So if you're new to this product, I would recommend getting the smaller, one of the smaller sizes just to test it out. And if you are alarmed when you first open it, if it seems difficult to mix and dig out, that's normal. If it's a little bit discolored on the top, like this little kind of bit of yellow here, that's normal too. Because a lot of times people will buy this and then they follow up and they're concerned that there's something wrong with it. But these are normal things that you'll run into with this product. So it will last a long time. It is a little more expensive than other adhesives out there, but a size like this is the, let's see, 1 pound quantity. So there's eight ounces of each together, 1 pound. And this will cover, I would say, at least 3, maybe 4 of this sized frame of any kind of substrate. So this, you can use this on many types of substrates. You can, Ouija board is a popular backer board that mosaic artists use. You can use it on that. You can use it on foam, on wood, pretty much anything. So I mix the 2 parts together. And let's see, I'm gonna check out the comments. Okay, looks like everyone's all settled in. Yes, and the replay will be shared on YouTube for sure. And I'll share a link to the Facebook feed. And I will also send out reminders to my mailing list. So if you're on my mailing list, my email, my newsletter list, I will share reminders and recordings there as well. I don't send out super frequently. I try, to be respectful of your inboxes, of course, but I do ask if you want extra reminders. I have a special little list where I send out extra reminders, which I forgot to do today. So, but anyway, that's my email list too. I'll send out updates there. Okay, so I was thinking I was gonna tint this, but I'm not sure what I'm even gonna do yet. I was kind of thinking about, I like to do my outlines first. So for this piece, I'm thinking I'm going to outline the heart, this inside heart, and then I'd like to do these gold seed beads in the flames, but I think I want to outline these as well first. And then I'll probably do China around the outside, the scallops, and then I'm not sure yet for the center. So a lot of times, especially pieces like this, but even my squirrel, I do work spontaneously. There's kind of a balance between, so I'm just gonna pull my squirrel over here. This is the one I started putzing on over the weekend, and I think I'm going to try to make these leaves work to fill out this lower thigh, but I'm not fully sure yet. So I'm just letting it simmer there while I'm pulling together colors and everything else on the other parts. And I know I want to make the tail something extra special happening in the tail. And I don't think I want to do complete, like all seed beads, but I'll probably do some. So I'm just kind of laying elements in place as I bounce around and just experiment here and there. I'm just like dabbling my way around and looking at different parts and of the design and what I can pull into for material and pattern. So this is just kind of hanging out while I work on this piece today. And often I find myself kind of thinking about, multiple projects at once. And I think that's really good for like a way to come to decisions without over analyzing and just letting things sit on the back burner a bit. I'm just going to read yes, we will definitely have the recording. Okay, so I'm thinking I want to do this chain around this outline first. And since it's an opal, it's this really beautiful opalescent white. And I'll bring the camera down closer once we get started. But this is a chain, rhinestone chain. It's not vintage, but it looks vintage. So that's close enough for me most of the time. But I do prefer vintage materials. There's just something so special about the history and the story. So this is a vintage chain. So you can see that it has a little bit more of a patina to it than this modern one. And also using vintage materials is more eco-friendly. Just it's better to reuse what we already have versus buying brand new. And there's so much vintage material out there, different suppliers, especially on the East Coast. But this opal chain is so versatile and it works for a lot of different projects. The color, so I did stock up on a bit of this. So I'll probably use that around this perimeter here, this outline of the heart. And then I think I'll do something that kind of frames in each of these flame sections, and then I'll fill in with seed beads. So I'm just gonna do a coil and lay that down around the part. Often when I'm doing an outline, I like to let it dry completely before moving into another section because then you don't disturb that work. But today I'm just gonna keep moving along because we don't have time to wait for things to dry. So, but we are not going to finish this today. We'll have to probably continue this on the next live, which I'm planning to do in 2 weeks. So next week my kids don't have school and I'm not quite ready to do a live with my kids home and all the, we'll probably go do something fun for that day since they're home from school. So no live next week, but the following week I will be back. And so we'll probably pick up on this project then. Okay, so I'm just doing a coil and settling this down, pressing it into the wood, and it bonds pretty easily. Like you don't have to do a lot of anything beyond this. It's pretty much, as you see it. You just press it down and it holds tight, and the clay will dry rock hard. So you don't want to put it anywhere where you don't want it to stay forever. If you walk away from your project and you haven't finished using it, you have to make sure to remove it. Otherwise, it will be in the way of your work when you come back. So this is such a game changer with mosaic because we get to, especially when you're working with fine materials like beads, rhinestones, you get to sculpt and determine the height and the dimension and texture as you're working. So you're like sculpting and mosaicing at the same time. So I can really, if I wanted this outline to set up higher than the rest of the mosaic, or this whole center heart to be kind of pulled up and forward, I can use the clay to just lift that section up and off the frame even more if I want to. But I'm not really sure yet. I think if anything, I'd want the heart to kind of pillow outward. So I don't want this chain to be raised up too much actually. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and outline these little flame sections too. So I often leave, almost always, I leave my frames unfinished and then I seal everything at the end with a sealant that gives it just a really nice glow. But this one I do feel like I might want to add some color to the frame when I'm done, but I'm just gonna wait and see. Another reason why I don't paint my frames before I start mosaicing them is because I don't know what my project's going to turn out like. And then usually by the time I'm finished with it, I'm just happy with it being a natural wood color. So with that, I usually leave them unfinished, but I might do something fun with this one. I'll just wait and see. But maybe a nice stain would complement it. I'm just gonna see how the color turns out. I'm gonna scroll down your comments. Oh, hello from Germany. Hello, Suzanne. Nice to meet you. And you like the acorn on the squirrel. Thanks, Debbie. I know that's such a sweet touch. The chain, Robin, this chain, I think I bought this from J.F. Allen. But if you search this brand name, Percocia, that's a pretty popular brand. And the size is SS18 and it's a white opal. So 25 meters, I mean, this is like a lifetime for one person, a lifetime supply, unless you're doing really big projects. But I actually have been using this. I cut this into 18-inch lengths, and then we add it to our treasure bundles at my shop. So if you are not familiar, I have an online shop where we sell supplies. So these are our treasure bundles. And in the treasure bundles, this is the neutral pack. And then we have a warm and cool pack too. So we add fun supplies, what I call my mosaic recipe, to our treasure bundles. So this, I actually bought this chain for our treasure bundles. So every bundle's been getting a little bit of some rhinestone chain. We have other kinds too. We have this more fine chain, but the rhinestone chain is so good for if you're new to beading, because it gives you that beaded look without having to wrestle with all the beads, because the beads can fall off the string and roll away, where the rhinestone chain, everything is just secure and locked into the chain. So you get that beaded look without having to fuss with the loose beads rolling off the string. But not that that's really, it's a pretty easy thing to manage too, and I can demonstrate that in a bit. But yes, so the rhinestone chain, if you wanted just a smaller amount, I think you can find that easily on Etsy too. There's lots of really fun vintage rhinestone chains on Etsy. Okay, so I'm just gonna do one side, I think, just to make sure I don't overcommit. We're already at 12:30. I can't believe it. Time flies, and I know I say this every time I'm on here working live, is mosaic time is just different. The time goes so fast. So if you start a project, I would say try to build it into a little pocket of time where you have at least a couple hours. And that might seem like a long time, but I promise it goes so fast. So I'm kind of tempted just to fill, I think I'm just gonna fill these whole sections in like this. I think I have enough clay to do this. When I teach classes in my studio here, I have a studio in Minneapolis that's not my home as well, and that's where we pack orders and I teach classes. So I have live classes there about once a month. And those classes are 5 hours long, and we use every minute of them. So a project like this can easily take 5 hours, and I even say it could take anywhere from 3 hours to 30 hours. It really will use as much time as you want to give it. And the time just goes really fast. It's very relaxing and just so fun, especially these days when we're so connected online in technology. And I mean, it's really such a gift that we can do this, but it also is good to connect to just doing handwork. I'm just reading comments. Karen says, I don't think I can make decisions fast enough before the clay hardens and becomes unusable. And then there's a question about grouting. Yes, so I would say just mix it in smaller amounts and move slower. And then as you build momentum and practice and become more confident in your decisions and your practice, you can then start mixing bigger batches, and you'll just adapt. It'll all start coming together. So I'm going to start putting this chain in place. And Heidi, I see your question about grouting. So I grout sometimes. I don't grout if I don't need to, especially over my beaded areas. So the way I use epoxy clay is like a self-grouted effect. And I'm looking for my little scissors. I thought I had all my supplies, all my materials ready to go. Here we go. So I grout when I use a lot of china, because the china can create bigger gaps and spaces. And I'll grab a piece to demonstrate an example of that. So this project isn't finished yet, but these wings, I'm going to adhere these pieces down using thin set mortar. And then because there's bigger gaps between them, I will end up grouting with a white, just a standard white sanded grout. So that's an example of something I would grout. And then the beaded areas, I generally leave ungrouted because it just keeps them looking extra sparkly, and the heightened texture just looks better to me ungrouted. And I have some alternatives to still give it that finished look, but without the all-out grouting. So I have this product called Diamond Glaze. I use this a lot these days, and I've been teaching my students how to use this as well. But I use this to fill in any gaps between pieces that just look like they need a little filler. So it's almost like a resin, and it's called a dimensional adhesive, and it dries super clear. Right now it looks a little cloudy, but it dries very clear, and you can just pipe it into little tiny nooks and crannies, and it dries clear while adding support and extra adhesion around your pieces. So if something feels a little fragile, it needs some extra adhesive, I just pipe that right into these little nooks and crannies. And then it's also serving another purpose of filling in gaps. So there's a little pocket of space right here, and it kind of blurs and softens and smooths out any rough texture. So sometimes when we're learning how to use epoxy clay, it can look a little rough. So the glaze can also just smooth out texture that's left behind from like our tools and such. So the chain goes so fast. I can just put this right into place, and the metal's soft enough where you can cut it with an embroidery scissors. I love these little embroidery scissors because not only do they look so cute, but they take up a lot less space than a big heavy duty scissors. So I just buy packs of them and have them all around. Let's see if there's any other questions. All right, so let me know if you have any other questions about epoxy clay. You can use epoxy clay outside too. It's a product that was made for taxidermy and taxidermy forms, and then the boat industry used it for a long time, repairing fiberglass. It's actually pretty local to me. I can drive right over to River Falls, Wisconsin, where Ave's studio is located. So this is the company. Let's see. Right here, Ave Studio. They're in River Falls, Wisconsin, and they have lots of different products. And I just love that they're like my neighbors. And I've been using Ave's products for, since 2006 is when I started. So almost 20 years. But yeah, definitely a game changer. And it definitely catapulted my beadwork and made everything just so much more possible. Okay, so now I've settled these rhinestones in, and I can clean away any extra clay around them, because if we let this sit, this extra clay around the edges, if we let this sit, it'll dry super hard and will be in the way of our work when we come back later. So we have about an hour of work time, and we want to make sure that we get all of our fine details in this first hour. After that hour, if you want to use this time for your beading in your mosaic work, you can wait and cut this away later, just so that you can keep working. But you do want to cut it away before, I would say, at least a couple hours. It's going to harden and be a little bit more work to cut away. But what you do is just press down with an X-Acto knife, and it just releases. So you can also keep reusing this clay too. And that's one benefit of cutting it away right now versus waiting until later, is that you can then take this batch of clay and then pull it back up into your next section that you're planning to work on. I've kind of lost my outlines here, so I'm just going to carve in with my X-Acto knife to remind myself where those lines are. And then I will cut over here. I'm going to bring the camera closer. I meant to do that earlier. There we go. I designed this frame a few years ago. I think it's been a few years, and I've never made one. I've seen my students work on this frame, but I've never personally used it. I started on one a while ago, and I never finished it. So this is fun. And that's the same case with the squirrel. I made the squirrel, I think last year. We added that one to the lineup, and I still haven't made that one either. So there's several designs I haven't yet personally made. So I have some catching up to do. And what's nice about the rhinestone chain is that you can adjust. So I can see down here, they're kind of tight and close together. So I can try to press them up and just kind of spread them out more evenly, so they're not so compact in that one section. So they're spaced a little bit more evenly. And my eye is just so used to seeing any inconsistencies, so I just naturally have to fuss with that. So we got this extra clay. There's a lot of extra clay, actually. So this is a way to really help your clay last longer, is just to keep using every little bit that's not holding a tile or bead in place. And I do wear gloves when I mix it because I want to minimize direct contact with it as much as possible. It's non-toxic, but still it's just a wise move to wear gloves when you're mixing it, at least. And it's also very sticky. So I do know that there's some people that just really don't want to wear gloves, and they do mix it barehanded, which I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could even get myself to do that. It's so sticky. Can you zoom your camera back out? It keeps auto-correcting. Oh, thanks for letting me know. Yes, I meant to turn that off, and I still have to figure out how to do that. Some kind of camera setting. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to put this extra clay down because I'm not sure if I'm going to get that far along, but I'm going to try to at least finish these up. Okay, so that looks pretty good. There is some extra clay down in here, but yeah, I'll take that out. I was going to leave it, but no, I'm going to take it out. Okay. All right, so now to outline these sections, I'm kind of thinking about using these kind of muted turquoise beads. And I feel like I'm going the same direction with my color palette as this one, but that's okay because then they can look, like a pair. All right, so these beads, I found these, they're all tangled up, and each one is a continuous loop. There's not really an end. So I think I might just cut into one. But these ones I found at CJS sales in New York. But they're pretty common. They're not quite a round. They're more of an oval. And I think they're usually called like a spacer bead. Or a, what is the word? Brulee? No. If anyone knows. It's pretty already. Thanks, Kelly. So I'm just going to outline these sections here. I love these colors so much together. The opal and this turquoise kind of green, pistachio. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball this and guess. And then where these intersect, I probably don't want to double up my lines, so I'm just going to build them on top of each other. So one kind of merges with another. And once you get used to handling beads on strings, you can move pretty quick. And I always say in my classes that we don't cry over spilled beads. And I can just see the relief in my students when they hear that, because I think they come in with a lot of concern that they're going to accidentally spill something or, you know, lose beads, and then it just feels wasteful. But it's part of the process. It's part of learning. And I call that my R&D department. Anything that falls on the floor is the R&D department. So it does not go to waste. It's all practice. And there's so many beads out there. We can always get more. So this is already framed in, and then we can start with the seed beads. I have one more section over here. And I go pretty fast, and then I touch up at the end. So I don't putz with it too much in this stage when I'm just getting them down, because you can go back and refine and move things around after. You just want to get them in, and then you can go back in with a little X-Acto knife. Maybe I will do this one. Maybe I should just do all of them. This is where you get into trouble, and then you're late. You're late for a meeting because you can't stop yourself. Okay, I'm just gonna I'll just frame in this last one right here. Well, if I do this one, then I might have to just go all the way up. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll go all the way up to that corner. What do you think? Do we have enough? I don't think I have enough clay to keep filling that. I'll just do this one. I was looking at, how did I do that over here? Yeah, it just matched up. Okay, and then I'm gonna tie this into a knot so I don't lose these beads and they're ready for next time. And this end is open to, I probably should tape this one. I'll set it over here for later. Okay, and now I'll go back in with my X-Acto knife and I'll just straighten out any wonky lines. I'm kind of thinking it might be nice to have the gold seed beads inside of these sections kind of pill it up a little bit. So I might build up the clay inside of these a bit more to get that dimension. Okay, so this one, I might just come back to this later. I'm going to cut this one away. Oh, I can see what I did. Okay, that's why I'm getting confused, is because this one over on this side went that direction. Okay, what should I do? I don't think I can handle that, so I'm going to shift this line over this way, because if I leave that, it's gonna bug me. Let's patch this in. George is snoring away. I don't think you can hear that, but my pug is snoring so loud. Okay, so this is now better, yeah. I wonder if you guys could see that before I did. Okay, I'll now clear out this. I can feel myself kind of rushing, so I'm gonna just let that. There. Okay, so now I'll go back in with the gold seed beads. I'm just going to do a little bit more of an inspection, making sure these are all secure and straight. I do a lot of this kind of putzing in between, and this does not make those 1 minute reels capturing the whole process. I don't include all of this in between fussing, so it's a little deceiving, but there's a lot of, refining as you go. So because you want to make sure that everything is right where you want it before the clay hardens, because once the clay hardens, there's no going back. I mean, unless you really want to chisel out sections and start fresh. But this little fine work of moving things around can only be done now. So we have this little window of opportunity to inspect and make sure everything is how you want it. But it's not a stressful amount of time either. So it's enough. An hour to me is enough time to take care of anything without feeling stressed. And if it does feel stressed, just make a smaller quantity of clay and work in smaller sections. This one is just giving me trouble. I do work differently when I am talking and teaching and narrating as I go. I can see that my work is a little less polished, but it's good for me. It's good for me to loosen up. Okay, I'm just gonna move that line down this way. So I started making mosaics 25 years ago, and I was in art school. And my first project was with a hammer and white wall tile and Elmer's glue. So I started off pretty rough. My first pieces did not look anything like what they do today, but I kept going because I loved the process, and there's so much novelty to mosaics. If you don't like working with beads, you can try stained glass. If you are tired of stained glass, you can try, there's smalti, which is an Italian, There's Italian and Mexican smelty, and it's a handmade glass that is just really, it's really special. So there's smelty, and then there's pebbles, and it's endless. There's so many things you can try just within mosaics. So it never grows old. And I like the challenge, and I have a hard time sticking to one kind of material. I think I've done one project in the most recent years where I only used smelty, and it took me a year, and I'm really happy with how that project turned out. But it was quite a challenge for me to only use one type of material for an entire year. So when I finished that project, I got right back into my beads, and I didn't use China so much for my first several years of mosaicing. That's only been in the recent years when I started designing these frames. And what I love about using China in these is that you can make one really special plate go a long ways. So if you had, like, for example, a plate like one of these plates could complete a whole frame this size. And you could do so much with it. So cutting out the flowers, cutting out the border, and so on. So now I see plates in such a different way for how can I utilize these parts of the design and incorporate them into patterns within these frames. So the options are endless. And oh, hi Judy, I see you made it. Judy is my number one fan and student, Judy Wheeler. We go so far back. I think Judy was in one of my first classes in Minneapolis and has really been with me through so much of my teachings. And yeah, I'm so glad you're here, Judy. Okay, so I'm going to start putting these gold beads in here. Oh, I like how that looks. Okay, I just skipped these first few because I could see that there was one in here that just had a little, I don't know, something's going on with one of them. So I'm just gonna skip those first few. And then once in a while there's a rogue bead with an extra, like, I don't know, like a little outie belly button on it or something that gets in the way. So I'm gonna just keep outlining and work my way in towards the center. And this takes on an embroidery kind of look. And these seed beads, I believe these came from CJS Sales 2 in New York. They are in the Garment District, and it's for wholesalers, but if you have an EIN number, it's so worth the trip. I went last spring for the first time after hearing about it for years and years, but finally it just felt like the right time with my kids all in school and just a little pocket of time and opportunity to go. I went for it, and I spent 8 hours digging through old boxes and climbing over piles and piles of beads and rhinestones. There's a video in my Instagram feed and I think it's on Facebook too, but it is such a dream. It is just full of treasures, and you really don't know what you're going to find, but it's worth the hunt if you like that kind of thing. I can see how it would be really overwhelming if you like organization and order. It could be really overwhelming. But if you know how to zoom in and look for the things that work for you and kind of filter out everything else, it's definitely manageable. Okay, so some of these beads are not staying, so I'm just going back in individually and making them work. I'm not going to worry too much about how embedded they are yet, because I can go back over it with my other adhesive just to give it some insurance. But this one I might need to come back to that after we're done on here and straighten that out. And then when there's a gap like this and I can't fit in a whole extra row. I might just have to close it, push the beads closer together to minimize that gap, but it looks like I can probably work in a couple. All right. I was looking at pictures of old-fashioned Valentines last night, and I was just feeling so nostalgic. And I've been talking about that for when I started this one. I was talking about inspiration from my daughter's classroom having a Valentine's Day party, and just thinking about all of my experiences of when I was a kid and making Valentine's Day boxes, and just all the anticipation and excitement. And oh my gosh, whenever I had an opportunity to get crafty in school, I went all out. So Valentine's Day was always such a special time. And so I was looking at old Valentines last night and trying to think of some inspiration for this project. And I just love the doilies and all the lacy patterns and the bright colors. There's some really fun color combinations in Valentine's. And then the font, all the fancy script and handwriting, it's endless. I'm really glad I went with these green beads to outline these sections. I wasn't sure about it, but now I'm really happy with how it's turning out. And these seed beads are a little bit of more of a bugle bead in a way, because I think they're actually technically a number 2, a size 2 bugle bead. Like, it's a very, very short bugle bead. So if you look closer, it's like a little bit of a straight rectangular shape. It's not quite a round seed bead. So I actually think this is a bugle bead technically. So when I'm putting together my mosaic materials, I'm always thinking about different textures and shapes, sizes. So what makes this design work well so far is that we have a contrast of sizes with these larger rhinestones, and then the smaller bugle bead, and then the green bead is a little bit larger too. So it's a nice mix of sizes, and then we have different finishes as well, with the opal and the metallic and the more opaque. There's a little knot in here. It might be hard not to work on this for 2 weeks after I get these in place, because I think it's gonna look so good. Oops, I lost one end. So if any of you haven't made a mosaic before, or like this, so my way of making mosaic is different. Sometimes people don't even know what it's called. That is a question I get a lot, is what is this even called? And I call it mosaic, but I guess I'm also thinking of it as like a hybrid of jewelry and mosaic, because we use so many fine materials, but it's definitely mosaic. And but if you're new to mosaic altogether, this is a different way versus more of a traditional, classic way of making mosaics with mortar and tile. But I still use those techniques as well and incorporate them in with these more beaded fine techniques. So when you add all of these materials together, it just makes a very interesting, it creates an interesting variety and so much fun texture. And especially when you can look at tile and plates in a way that you can really refine them and make them take on a softer quality, because sometimes they can be, heavier, a little bit more substantial, but there's ways to use them and make them look delicate and visually softer, so they have a nice balance with these smaller materials. So if you're looking for something different to try, I, of course, recommend this. It's so much fun, and I often talk about mosaic being like a lifestyle. So once you start making mosaics, you will notice them everywhere, and you'll start thinking about them. You'll find yourself, at a party, and you're looking at their china, thinking about how you can make a mosaic with their china. Oops, let's see. Streaming error to Instagram. Oh, okay. I guess Instagram, I don't know if Instagram was working, but I just got to notice that there's an error. But yeah, so it's like a lifestyle. You are thinking about mosaics all the time. Once you get hooked, it kind of takes over, and you notice it everywhere. It's, on walls, fountains, signs, and then in house decor too, of course. Photo frames, wall hangings, vases. It goes on and on. And then there's the hunt for materials. So going to thrift stores and repurposing old jewelry. There's really no limit to what we can use or take apart to use for our supplies. I love finding old things and looking at them through a mosaic lens and thinking about how I can incorporate something into a mosaic. So, for example, there are a bunch of like these findings out there and around, and that's what I have for the little squirrel. I'm going to use this little acorn. So it's so fun finding something like this and then matching it up with a project, and it just all comes together. So I have lots of little collections of findings and things, and these are, I think these were used for hats. Is that right? Anything on a wire is so much fun. Okay, so this one didn't really build up as much as the others two. I really wanted these to have that kind of pillowed up and raised effect, but I ran out of my clay. I might mix, what is the time? Oh my gosh, it's already 1:05. I didn't even realize. Okay, well, I think I'm just gonna keep going. And if any of you wanna stick with me, feel free. But I wanna finish these last two little spots here. So I'm gonna keep working. I was gonna try to keep these at an hour. Yes, the French beaded leaves, that's right. I'm just reading your comments. Oh yeah, it's addictive, Christy. Yes, it's so much fun. And so estate sales, garage sales, thrift stores, I find plates and these sorts of things in all of those. So these plates, I get them from eBay too sometimes if I have a very specific pattern that I'm looking for. And of course you have to look at the prices. They can be all over the place, and you don't want to spend too much on one singular plate. But I think we can also be a little flexible with what we think is something I call mosaic math. And I explained it in my mosaic membership when we did a plate hunting excursion together virtually, and I shared my mosaic math and how I break down the cost of a plate in comparison to other mosaic materials and how I can kind of justify the cost of a plate. So yeah, I have kind of a tendency to splurge on material that really, brings out the best part of a mosaic, because as mosaic artists, we are more dependent on our mosaic materials. We don't have paint that we can mix together, or paper like collage artists that we can cut up and glue and alter. So we are dependent on our materials. And I think that once you've started making mosaics for a while and your eye is more refined and you're looking for more specific types of materials, then you might have to be open to committing to, going for that plate that might be a little shocking to break. I know that most of you have seen some of the backlash I get online for cutting plates and such, and I doubt anyone's here watching this if you have been angry at me about that, and if you are, that's fine. But there really are so many plates out there. In the thrift stores, estate sales, they are just full of beautiful china, and they get thrown away. So artists like us, we can take advantage of that and put them to use in new ways, and save them from the trash. And there's so much out there. And honestly, mosaics take a long time to make. Even if you are a fast worker, your stash of china it'll take time to go through it all. So even if you do start collecting and splurge on a fancier pattern now and then, it'll last a long time. It takes a while to work your way through especially a whole set. If you found a whole set of china, it'll go a long ways. Okay, so I beefed those sections up a little more. Now I kind of wish I would have just done the whole. Should I do the whole thing? Because if I have to look at it just partially completed for 2 weeks, that's going to drive me crazy. I think I'm just going to go for it. And if you all want to stick with me, feel free. And Lindsay, I think I said an hour. So if you need to go, Lindsay, that's fine too. But I'm just going to finish these last two little flames over here, because then we'll have a nice section finished for next time. And then I can think about what I want to do for the rest of it. Okay. I wonder how long this will take me. I bet I can finish it in, let's see, I think 5 minutes, which probably means 10 minutes. Are they supposed to be flames, not leaves? They could be either. They could be flames. It's like a flaming heart icon kind of shape. So like a folk art, classic flaming heart shape, but they could be leaves. I could see, like, if I did something like these flowers, like this, in the center on this one too, that could work really well with that kind of looking like leaves. Okay, gotta make sure this is mixed up all the way. So if I wanted to tint my clay, I would do that now, and I just add oil paint. And there's not really an exact formula. You just add your paint until you get the color you want, and that's it. And then you add it in, and that's really nice for a grouted look. So often I'm mixing my clay to match my mosaic material, and then it just all looks really nice and seamless. And that's when I skip grouting and I don't grout that. But if I am grouting, I'm usually using thin set under that section because the clay is best for like your fine work. Anything with beading is where the clay works best. You can use it for anything really, but just to make it last longer, I use it for the bead. So I mixed up a little extra. I'm just gonna make this a bit taller in the middle. I'm just gonna exaggerate this section to get that nice pillowy effect. Okay, now take my gloves off and then fill it back in with these greens. These got a little buried. Oh, there's a little funny bead in there. Okay, so we're just gonna do, how did this one work? Okay, over here. What's nice about working symmetrically is that you make decisions one time and then you just look on the other, you just mirror it. So a lot of the mosaic work, the time that goes into mosaicing is just making the decisions. And once you've made those decisions once on one side, if you're working symmetrically like this, then it's, you just follow on the other side what you've already done. So then you don't have to make any more decisions, which is kind of a relief when you get to the other side. Okay, something. That looks a little off, but I think once I get the gold beads in, it'll all come together. It's a good exercise to make mosaics in front of other people because then you have to get it done. You have to stay focused. I'm super happy that I built that up higher because now you can really see that dimension and it catches the light in such a fun way. So that's one of the benefits of the clay, is that we can really pillow things up if we want to make our surface more undulating, and it brings a lot of extra whimsy and interest into the surface. So when I look at my frames, I'm not looking at them as just flat. I think about what parts of the design do I want to lift up and pull forward, and other parts that can just be more recessed. And I'm just working one side to the other side, back and forth until it meets in the center. And then after a few hours, all of this will be hard and completely locked into place. So, and then it's ready. I don't need to grout it or do anything else after that, but I do usually go over it with my diamond glaze and just touch up and make sure everything is nice and secure. And I can I don't want to press down too hard because then things can get lost in there, but you can kind of shape, you can still shape and move the clay around a little bit at this point. Okay, now I have these last little sections to go. Okay, last section. Who's still here? I'm just gonna read your comments. I'm addicted to China. I found a set the other day and couldn't pass it up. Oh, good. Yes, Angela, I want to see what the pattern is. That sounds super fun. Yeah, I was supposed to pick up a set this morning, but I'm gonna get it tomorrow, and I get it. It's really fun, and I feel that there's so many fun patterns out there just waiting to be discovered, and it's a fun challenge too to look at a pattern of China and then think about all the ways that we can use it. So often I'm looking at leaves and thinking of them as feathers, or like how little tiny edges and borders on the sides of plates can be cut into rims and borders for our mosaics. So like something like this, there's this very fine geometric pattern around the outside edge in addition to the flowers. So it's like you get two different patterns to play with. So when I'm looking at a pattern, even the stamp on the back sometimes can be useful in a mosaic, can be, extra ornate and interesting. So you can get a lot of mileage out of a certain pattern. And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes a plate might only have, one part of it that is really usable, but maybe it's, just so amazing that you want the whole set anyway. So, okay, we did it. We finished up this section, and I'm so pleased, super happy with how it turned out. What do you all think? I'm gonna go back in later and I'll just do some of my glaze and then just make sure everything is locked in and really embedded into the clay. But look at that fun dimension too from the side, and the way it catches the light, so pretty. And then I think for the outside, I'm not sure. I think I'll probably, so on this cake mosaic, one time I did some scalloped patterns with China, and I really like how that turned out. So I might do that. I'm also going to just go back and make sure that my heart, this outline with the rhinestones, is where I want it to be before it dries completely, because it might have shifted a little bit. And once that dries, that's, going to be in place too. So I'm just going to spend a little time putzing with it after we sign off, but that's all I'm going to do for today. So I'm just going to click back over through a few things. I'm going to look at your questions. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Christy. Amy. Yes, I can't wait to see it either. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I'll think about it. Okay, well, I'm going to share, in case some of you are new to what I offer, I'm going to click through a couple things I want to share with you. So I have a Mosaic membership, and we have a beginner and advanced membership. The beginner is great for if you're just kind of getting started and you're curious. I have a bunch of courses and tutorials in there. And then the advanced membership is with I just kicked off Mosaic Design School. So Mosaic Design School is all about thinking about mosaic design and how we can incorporate the principles and elements of design into our mosaics. So we just started that, and it's not too late to join. So if you're interested in that, that would be the advanced membership. And I also have a full online shop with frames, kits, supplies, and more. So if you're looking for a quick, easy way to get started without buying extra, all the things, I would recommend starting with a mosaic treasure bundle, some adhesive, a frame, anything, or you could even use just a piece of wood that you might have in your garage just to get started. And I have tools in there as well. And this is the project we finished last week. I have a little kit put together for this Valentine project. So this is going to start shipping out tomorrow. And let's see, I have one more thing. Oh, okay. So our next Mosaic Live is February 23rd. And maybe I'll try to post something next week for our project. Okay, but that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Here is our project. I don't know if it'll focus. Yes, it's going to be so fun. I can't wait to work on it again. So, have a great day everyone, and we'll have the recording up later. I'll let you all know. All right. Thank you. I forgot how this is supposed to finish. There we go.